Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wishbone Football. I am Chad, and welcome in to our video debut episode. We are now into episode 1.14, the dog days of summer, and we are definitely feeling that. I mean, it's coming at a bit of a funny time with me doing this episode here on July the 29th, but that's mainly because training camp is now open for the NFL. So juices are flowing, everyone's excited, and we have live football to be looking at and be talking about. Now, I, as you know, I've been wanting to do video now for a little while. I've been trying to put together the right pieces, new microphone, camera, all of these fun stuff, these fun things that you don't really think about prior, and all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, let's give this a shot. I think we can do it. So I have been slowly putting together the pieces, and I think the timing definitely helped with when, how, and why, only because we are in the off season of college and NFL. So it really made sense to be putting these pieces together now and not, well, it's Labor Day or week 0 in college football and everyone's so incredibly bloody excited and you're working with technical things. It's a lot of fun, I will say. I spent a few days getting my corner of the home set up to be able to do this. So it has been a lot of fun to do that and kind of get things ready. And I also haven't done an episode in a long time. So I knew I wanted to do that. We still have summer break going on. We still have another week of family vacation that my my family and I are going on. So excited about that, but I wanted to get out, I'll call it my tester. Like, let's make sure things work. Let's make sure you can see me, you can hear me, and so I've, as you know, if you've been following along at all, I've put together my YouTube channel where you can actually find all of my podcasts now, even though they were all audio only. It still allows you to put them up. You have to stare at my silly graphic that I have, but that's okay. Um, really, I just wanted them there to be another platform for me to be putting this on. So I think we're all set up now. I'm sitting here, my corner of the home, as you can see, where we've got the phone rolling for some fun B-roll. We've got my computer set up here on camera, and I'm very excited to do that with you guys. So let's jump right into it here. There has been it's been a fun off season. You can tell when everyone is getting super excited for the football season when everyone is coming out with their projected top 25 or top 30 or top 40, which I also find to be a lot of fun, and I love looking at that sort of stuff. And that's when you know everyone is just itching for some football. And that's really what has driven me to want to do this for a long time, not just the podcast, the video portion of the podcast as well. Wanting to get out there and really show my love of football as much as I can. And I've gotten into that a little bit before in previous episodes. So um, please follow along, like, subscribe, you know the deal, all that fun stuff. So a few things I wanted to get into. It's not a big long list by any sorts for episode 1.14. But the first thing I wanted to touch on was the eligibility piece in the NCAA and really what has been going on with the Protect College Sports Act. It sounds like everything that I've been reading um, from everyone that has any sort of salt in the game, um, saying that this vote is not going to be taking place anytime soon. This is going to be a sort of long, drawn out process trying to get everyone as happy with the wording of what the bill looks like, what sort of needs to take place in it, what people like, what people don't like. And so I think that's going to be something that we continue to talk about over the next 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, sort of thing. It could be a long, drawn out thing. So the one thing that everyone seems to be on board with, though, is the 5-year eligibility. So I wanted to get into that. And I think the reason that everyone's so on board with it is because of COVID. We saw that in COVID that anyone that was going to school through COVID was given another year of eligibility to make up for what may have been lost. And we're talking about the, I'll call them shortened seasons in 2020. I mean, they really weren't that shortened, but I mean, the NCAA did ultimately grant another year of eligibility to those players. So now that we're going into the into fall of 2026, those 5-year eligibilities are now sort of being taken away, and we've seen that with a lot of lawsuits, taking them to your local courthouse where your judge is probably their alma mater, your school. We saw that in the Brendan Sorsby case, a little bit different for eligibility purposes with his gambling on college football specifically and his team. But when it comes to what we saw from granting a 5th year of eligibility, basically every judge around the country is, yeah, okay, we're on board. Here you go. Take your 5th year of eligibility. And the NCAA does seem to be on board with that. So I've got a statement here that I want to read to you. This is coming from the D1 board of the NCAA, the board of directors. We are encouraged by the Division I membership's board support of the age-based eligibility rules. The design of the new rules, including its implementation strategy, was thoughtful and well-informed, and there was unanimously support by the cabinet, including its student-athlete members. The board has no plans to modify their application, notwithstanding a series of lawsuits recently filed on behalf of student-athletes with no remaining eligibility. We look forward to ensuring that the age-based eligibility rules are enforced consistently so that all institutions play by the same rules like all participants in sports. So essentially what the age-based eligibility then comes into play is you have 5 years from you entering school, and that entering school is the main piece that we need to be taking away on this, is that if you are going to a JUCO school for a year, that is a year of eligibility in the NCAA's eyes. And I think that's important for us to think about because that's correct. That's how it should be applied. And I don't really want to take away from any of the student athletes who have been fighting this, but I do think that that's a missed piece. Like, you are going to a college. Yeah, it's a junior college, but you are going to college and you're playing football. You are under the NCAA umbrella. That piece has always been missing in this, because that needs to be highlighted, and that's what the NCAA D1 board of directors has done. Now, D2, D3 does have different rules, so I'm not going to get that into that here, but I do think it's interesting that we're now moving to a place where the NCAA and and society as a general, I'll say, with albeit judges or governors or anything like that, they do seem to be coming together on resolutions on some of these things. And I think the 5-year eligibility is a big piece to that, and something that we can use as springboard to move forward in other discussions. Now, that's notwithstanding the SEC and the Big Ten. The main holdup with them, with all of this, they're going to be fine with the 5-year eligibility, because the SEC and the Big Ten, football specifically, they're going to look at ensuring that they're going to have like 22-year-olds. They're going to have, for lack of a better term, super seniors still on the field, and that is only going to make the product on the football field that much better. And in turn, also making the divide between a top tier Division 1 football program and the NFL that much closer. Because I think that's where we're heading. We're heading to the point where the D1 football top tier schools are and the NFL, and that gap is coming together a lot faster than what we think. And a good example of that is the starting rate, or the rate in which that draft picks are now making their respective teams. And there was an interesting breakdown of that I had saw on Twitter. And this is actually coming from someone you may know, or may not know at all. And I'm not going to fault you for not knowing him, because it's only because of a podcast that I listen to that his name was even brought up. And his name is Ryan Paganetti. And he is a strategy and analytics coach, formerly with the Eagles, Super Bowl winning team, and the Jags and the Raiders. And basically, he is, I mean, I'm probably going to disrespect him a little bit by saying this, but he is essentially a math genius, looking at everything that exists in a football game that you can find an edge on analytically, that no one, just some people may not be looking at. I mean, this, from what I've heard, this is the first time that he is sort of like a quote unquote free agent in a long time. And I think because of that, he's now able to essentially be out there more on Twitter. His handle on Twitter is Ryan Paganetti, at Ryan Paganetti. And when I post this video, I'll be sure to tag him in it. You're going to want to go and take a look at some of his stuff. But what I wanted to highlight is he looked at the percentages of rookies beginning their battles for roster spots, and how often those draft picks make the team where they were selected, right? So breaking it down round by round over the past 5 seasons. So the third round, it's 100%. So what that means is that first and second round drafted players are winning their position battle. They are going to be day one starters for their NFL team. Round 4, 99.4%. So again, there's in the last 5 years, how many 4th round picks have been made? 32 times 5. I'm not good at math, but you get my point. There's probably only been a couple of guys that have not won their position battle in the 4th round. Moving on to the 5th round, 94.4%. So again, numbers are very high, and it just kind of shows you that the gap between top end college football players and the NFL is not that big of a difference. And you're starting to see that more with teams that are trying to get younger, making sure that, yes, they have a bit of a veteran presence, but they could be stocking their team with the skill that they need coming right out of college. So moving on, round 5, I said that 94.4%. Round 6, 81.4%. So I mean a bit more of a drop off, but still like 81% of 6th round drafted players winning their position battle in year 1. I think that's incredible. And I think that really shows that like the 5th through the 7th rounds are not throwaway players as much as everyone might think that. And I've been thought of that as well, is like, okay, round 1 of the NFL draft, super excited. I'm up all night watching it till it's over, even though this year it only took what, an hour and 50 minutes or something to get through all 32 picks. But it really does show you that there's always going to be depth in the draft. And you as the scouting team for each NFL team, it needs to find that. So back to it, 6th round, 81.4%, like I said, and the 7th round, 70.8%. That's a pretty shocking number. So if we were to think about like 70%, that's incredible. It means that in 1 year of a draft, you can be taking your NFL team from, yeah, we're good, but we want to get better. And so it's showing that with the right scouting and with the right people finding these players, that you can, in 1 year of a draft, you can be replacing seven um seven players on your team with that draft class. And I know that's not going to be a perfect science, because you're going to be drafting for need, which no one wants to do ever. But you're also going to be drafting for depth at positions that you need 5 wide receiver, as example. You're going to carry 5 wide receivers on your roster each and every week. But maybe you have 3 cemented and you need 2, and hoping 1 turns out for you. And really, I think that do NFL teams need to sort of go back to the drawing board when it comes to how they're finding their guys and their scouts? And I mean, I'll never take anything away from scouts. They work very hard, very long hours, basically watching every piece of film that's ever been shown on specific players, traveling the country. But it shows you that we need to put more stock there in the draft and building of players, rather than it's free agency. Let's go out and get a guy for that. And I'm not going to fault that, because that's always going to be a good way to go. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Rams as an example right now. They went out and traded for arguably the best player in the NFL right now, and that's Myles Garrett. And some people will give me pushback on that. I don't care. He is probably the best player in the NFL right now. And that's going to be warranted. However, you also need to be finding Myles Garrett in the draft. Not easy to do, but that's where Super Bowls can be won, is if you have a string of 2 good drafts. Say that you're hitting on 5 each year. You're essentially putting 10 new starters across offense and defense. That is almost a side of the ball every 2 years. So think about that. You see my Bills stuff hanging. I'm obviously a lifelong Bills fan. Let's look at that objectively from the Bills point of view. With good drafts, you could essentially have been replacing half of your team, half of your offense or defense every year. And that's really where teams need to think that they're going to be doing, what they're going to be doing. Now, Bills are a perfect example. You're not going to need to do that. They have had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL over the last few years. But Deion Dawkins is no longer a young man. He is on the latter half of his career now. Hence why he runs a motorsport company on the side, Schno Motorsports, which I think is honestly incredible. But that's the way you have to start looking at the drafts that are taking place now, is you are not drafting for need, which is how I have felt the Bills have been drafting in the first round for the last 3 years, ultimately going with an edge with their a second round pick, because they ultimately traded out in the 2026 draft. The 2026 draft. Last year it was Keon Coleman. The year before that it was Dalton Kincaid. So they were drafting in need for all 3 of those, because back-to-back years it's been pass catchers, and the third year was defensive end, which we have clearly known that we need help with. And because, I mean, Joey Bosa just wasn't that for us. And even before that, Von Miller. Can't really fault him. He was plagued with injury. No fault of his own, but that was a big free agent swing that the Bills took, and that ultimately did not get them any closer to that ultimate goal of even just making the Super Bowl, let alone winning one. So back to Ryan Pagnetti. I do think that does highlight how close things are. We're not as far as we thought in the difference between the NFL and top tier Division I football in college. And that's ultimately why I do believe that the NCAA and everyone else is okay with a 5-year eligibility piece. Now, the question I'm going to put out to you guys, it's kind of a silly one. It's been one that's been tossed around on Twitter for, I think, a couple of weeks, ever since we've been talking about the 5-year eligibility. And what should the 5th year be called? I've had some good ones. Victory Lap is definitely a great one. Super Senior. Um, and the last one I'll highlight is the Unk Year. So basically, you go full old man status in your 5th year when you are 22 and the possibility of being 23, and you've got guys that are coming in as freshmen, as 17-year-old heading into college for the first time if they have a late birthday. So that was just something I wanted to highlight with respect to the Protect College Sports Act and the 5-year eligibility piece from the NCAA. Now, the next thing I wanted to get into was the College Sports Commission update. You guys know what I'm talking about. This should not be new to anyone. I've been kind of bringing you guys updates with respect to NIL deals, name, image, likeness, and so we are highlighting the as of June 30th, 2026. There have been a total of 34,195 deals that have cleared the NIL-Go platform. Those deals total $355 million. And that is an average NIL deal of $10,300. Pretty good. And if this is not your first listen, each month that this is kind of rolled out, we've been doing an update to it, kind of tracking where it is, not so much where the money's going, because we know where it's going, like it's going to the athletes, but we're more tracking what deals aren't going through. And that's always been a fun one for me to kind of keep an eye on. And so, in respect to that, we have had a total of 1,812 deals that have not cleared the NIL-Go platform. And that is at a total of $89 million. And when we actually break that down into per deal on average basis, it's over $49,000 per deal. And so, like I've said before, this shouldn't be new to anyone. This is the more complex deals, I'll say. The ones that may look like they're on the up and up on the outside, but are you just getting paid $100,000 to be in a Buc-ee's commercial, which is cool. Buc-ee's, if you need someone, I have 5 years of eligibility left as long as this new deal gets passed through, and I am open to NIL deals. So hit me up. So $49,000, I mean, that's a lot. So those are the deals that the College Sports Commission is spending a little bit more time going through and sort of making sure that they aren't questionable. They aren't nonprofits pushing money to an NBA player as an example. Like, hey, we're going to pay you less, but like we'll kick you 10 million out the door here. So that would, I guess I shouldn't take any shots at my own basketball team being a Raptors fan, but I mean, it is kind of funny that trade is still pending, but you are here for football. So as we've seen progressively is that these deals are a lot more money, as we know. Like that shouldn't be a that shouldn't be a shock to any of us, because like it's a lot of money. And with some of what is being reported in the way of NIL valuations for some players, especially in D1 football, I think I saw a number thrown out in the $5 million range for a quarterback in a Big 12 program. Like I'm it's absolutely crazy money, but we also see where the money is coming from now, which is something that we've never had before. And I'll touch on that briefly. I don't want to spend too much time, because I ultimately probably will get into it deeper, but I'm talking about the JP Morgan Chase um, jersey logo for Ohio State. Um, we thought that this was going to break the internet. $15 million annually from JP Morgan Chase for jersey patches for Ohio State. That was it. It was going to be incredible. So much money. Oh my God. How can you give that much money to put what is honestly the smallest logo on an Ohio State jersey? But then it gets broken. The bubble breaks again, and Notre Dame announces their jersey logo with SoFi at a reported 18 to $20 million annually. And it's just incredible. And I mean, I'm not going to hide it. I'm a Longhorn fan. I will be objective about the Longhorns, but are they looking at $25 million annually for jersey patches? Now, let me be clear on this as well. This is not just football. This is going to be football, basketball, volleyball, swim team, lacrosse, anything that school is doing. It's going right across all of the athletics. So it's not just going to be for fun, for football, we should say. So that's now that we know where the money is coming from, we can track it a little bit more. But I mean, I still think we're years away from being able to track it like we are with the NFL. Like the NFL, like the reports have come out about annually what each NFL team had made last year, and the number is in the neighborhood of like $473 million. And you just think about that, and it's just like, I wonder what Notre Dame brought in football last year across everything, or Michigan, or Oregon, or Texas. You know what I mean? Like, and that's when it will become easier to track that and try and pinpoint, okay, well, if Notre Dame football brought in $300 million last year in revenue, how much are they spending on their roster? And then I think that's where the economics are going to come in a little bit more for us, and we'll be able to sort of try and pinpoint a better cost onto what the football roster is costing. Anyway, we're years away from that. I don't want to get too deep first time on video. Just happy I've made it through now 34 minutes and we are without a lot of hiccups. The next thing I wanted to jump into, and sort of my biggest piece this week, is the NFL rest edge, and the opportunity where some teams are going to have a vastly better competitive edge over the course of the year. I should say this is not done on a week by week basis. This is from Warren Sharp, Sharp Football, at Sharp Football on Twitter. If you follow any sort of college or NFL, you'll probably be following this man. He is essentially an analytics guru when it comes to stuff like this. You kind of see where I like to spend a lot of my time football wise with him, and then Ryan Paganetti, just getting very deep on stuff like this. I lose myself. I honestly do, and it's as silly as it sounds. There is another guy I will highlight that I probably spend too much time. To be fair, he does put out a weekly Substack, which is lengthy. I'll say that, and it's not for the faint of heart. But this guy is like deep in it, looking at the wildest things that you can think of. Like batted balls was his topic last week, and how it's impacting the game, how often is it happening, and it's incredible. So his name is Ray Carpenter, and you can find him at CSV_enjoyer. And I think his name sort of says it all there. So let's get into this here. So the 2026 NFL strength of schedule based on the rest. So what we mean by that is the ability to have how much full rest are you getting between games? And that's gonna sound a little silly to some people, because they'll say, yeah, you play once a week, and every year you get a bye week. But it's not just that. You do have a distinct advantage or disadvantage over the long haul of the season. And let me just highlight some, just so you know, and kind of what we're looking at. And I'm sorry, I sort of jumped forward. I want to go over the rest differential first, and then the strength of schedule, and to kind of see where each of them lie comparatively. So the first one is, I'm going to highlight the top 3 and the bottom 3, and then sort of get into the schedules and understanding where each of them will sort of end up lying, and what we can kind of extract from that, the data we can extract from the schedule. So first is the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are number 1 in rest differential, and it is plus 15. And what I mean by the plus and the minus is days, rest days. So the first one is Chicago being plus 15. So that means on average, they are about 1 full extra day of rest for each game that they're playing this year. And that's crazy to think about, because that's a lot. Because when you're plus 15 and you have 18-week seasons, then you're 0.9 days gained per week on your team. So we'll just run through the Chicago Bears schedule just to see if there are any highlights we can kind of come up with. So week 1, they are at the Panthers. Sunday, 1 o'clock, boring game. Just kidding. Week 2, Vikings at the Bears, same thing, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Week 3, they are playing the Eagles at home Monday night. Now, when we think about how we should be looking at this, we should also be looking at what the opposite team is going to be giving us as well. So let me get into the Philadelphia Eagles schedule as well. And that will give us a good idea of the comparison and how we kind of move through this process together. So we are looking at week 2 for the Eagles. So they are playing also week 2, Sunday, 1 o'clock, and then Monday at the Chicago Bears. Their week 4 game, the Eagles, they are playing at home on Sunday afternoon. So already they're behind the 8 ball there with a Monday play Sunday. Not a big one by any stretch of the imagination. But moving on, the number 2 team for positive net rest is the Buffalo Bills. So they are plus 14 in days, which again can be a lot. And if you've taken any sort of a look at the upcoming NFL schedule, specifically the Bills one, the Bills play a bit of a gauntlet when it comes to their first 5 weeks of the year. And that's going to be at Houston. That is going to be back home Thursday night to open up the new stadium against the Detroit Lions. The week 3, they are at home to the Chargers. Week 4, they are at home to the Patriots. And then week 5, they travel to LA to play the Rams, which I will sort of say it's a schedule. That's an SEC schedule is what that is right there. But I'm a little bit upset that they have the 2 LA games as close together as possible. You'd almost rather them separated a little bit more. Like the Chargers come to Buffalo week 3, and then the Bills go to the Rams week 5. You'd expect more of a separation there. And then I'll also add in week 6 for the Bills. They go to the Raiders. So they play at the Rams Monday night, October the 12th, and then they go to the Raiders for a 4:25 game on Sunday, October the 18th. I don't think you travel home in a scenario like this. Monday night, play Sunday in Las Vegas. I think you just go straight to Vegas. Maybe hit up a pool bar and take a day off in Vegas. I mean, I'm no professional athlete, but I think that's the way I would handle it if I was Joe Brady for the Bills. Let me know what you think. Give me an answer on that. If you would travel home from LA on a Monday night to then turn around and go back to Las Vegas on Saturday. I know it's a long time between, but I do think it's worth thinking about in the grand scheme of things. So moving on to the third best net rest, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. What Dak Prescott called the greatest offense in the league. GOIF. He is just out there creating acronyms now for whatever reason. And their differential is 11.5. So still very good. Now, there is one team I'm going to highlight, and that's dead in the middle. Their net rest differential is 0. So it essentially means that every team that they are playing, there is no competitive advantage or disadvantage over the course of the full year. The bottom 3 for net rest, Las Vegas, which is sad to say because, as some of you may know, I am married into a family of Raiders fans, and I have to give them respect for that, for being there through thick and thin. I mean, I'm a Bills fan, so I really can't say much, but when it comes to it, it's the Raiders are 13 and a half negative rest differential days. And that's incredible for a young team like that. But you know what? That could also be a great learning curve for a young team like that. Really spending the time to figure out what it takes week in, week out, on the road, at home, and really understanding how things are going to go there. Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, Fernando Mendoza. That's a excellent core that, if built the right way, is going to be a good team for years to come, I hope. The second to last one is Philadelphia. They have a net rest of minus 15 days. And I mean, really nothing noteworthy to say there. They are a good team, and they're going to be competitive every year, but they are going to be good. So, and then finally we have the LA Chargers. The LA Chargers have a minus 24 net rest differential. I'll let that sink in. Minus 24 net rest. That's it's incredible. It's 9 less days. Let me put this in perspective here for you. So Chicago was plus 15, best in the league, right? LA Chargers are minus 24. They, like, if they win 10 games this year, I'll be shocked just by that alone. Because you think about it, just the Bills, just who we were just talking about, the Chargers at the Bills. So they are going to be coming in and, like, flying in for a 1:00 game on the East Coast. And you know the old adage, you always take the East Coast team at a 1:00 game, because the West Coast team is still getting used to the time. And I gotta say, I'm a little bit upset for that also, as a Chargers fan. I mean, like, you guys at least have it good on the West Coast, where you're able to roll out of bed and be watching football on every Sunday, and college. But a 1:00 game, like, you're up at 10 a.m., like, trying to be excited about football. I mean, I'd love it, but I mean, everyone has a different view of that. So yeah, so finally, LA Chargers, the last one, minus 24 in net rest differential. It's incredible to think about, because it can be playing a role in these games. Like the Bills, I hate continuously bringing up the Bills, but I haven't been into the schedule that much outside of the Bills, for that purpose. But you think about the Bills, week 1, they travel to Houston to play the Texans. Okay. So week 1, you're on the road, 1:00 game, for Houston. which again, you poor West Coasters or Texans, like, come on, 11 a.m. kickoff. Who wants that? No one wants that. And then the Bills travel back Sunday night after week 1 to get ready for the Detroit Lions to take a bus trip down to Buffalo for Thursday night. And so Texas 1:00 game, you're probably home by midnight on Sunday. Monday will be walkthrough / off. You're practicing Tuesday and then walk through Wednesday. So really leading up to the beginning of the season, it's almost like you're preparing for 2 games. You're preparing for the Texans and then making adjustments for the best running back in the NFL to come into your brand new stadium that you're going to open in Buffalo for Jahmyr Gibbs, because you're playing the best defense in week 1 and the best running back in week 2. Good luck. The first 5 weeks you go Texans, Lions, Chargers, Patriots, Rams. Like, what are we hoping out of that in a win-loss scenario? 3 of 5? You hope to come out 3-2. 4-1 would be a dream, and 5-0 would be godlike. If the Bills come out of that 5-0, I think it's their 1 seed to lose from that point forward, because at that point you're already at least a game up on the Patriots for the division. You've already taken down the Chargers and the Texans to sort of get them out of the way, in the way of any tiebreakers for the 1 seed. What's stopping them now? So net rest, we've covered that. We've gotten into that. The strength of schedule was the last thing that I wanted to talk about here. And strength of schedule comes to us from Warren Sharp. No introduction needed here. And the strength of schedule is really all over the place. And I actually saw Warren do a breakdown of first half, second half strength of schedule. Like the Bills are, I think, second hardest schedule the first half, with who I just laid out in the first 5 games of the year. And then it gets a little bit easier with the Raiders, but then the latter half, they're like the third easiest, or it basically puts them right in the middle. First half is extremely difficult. Second half is easy. You never want to call an NFL schedule really easy, but that's the way that it sort of breaks down here. So based on the strength of schedule, here's the breakdown of sort of, I'll highlight a few as we go, sort of the tier breaks, I'll say, in the strength of schedule. So the easiest one in the league is the Lions. The Bengals are second, and the Saints are third. So it's funny to think about the Bengals just for the AFC purposes, but is the Bengals this year what the Patriots were last year? Like, come in, get hot, be good because you have easy schedule, and just kind of take back your division. Number 4 is the Jets. And then we just kind of taper off down to the Bills and the Vikings, who are ultimately right in the middle there, 15-16. And I actually feel bad. So the bottom 3, the hardest 3 strength of schedules. And this is based on the forecasted win totals from Vegas. Okay. So like Lions over under win is like 9.5, and the Bengals is like 8.5, something like that. So that's how it's broken up here by Warren Sharp. The bottom three hardest three schedules in the NFL: Arizona Cardinals, which is easy to think about because you are playing the Los Angeles Rams, you're playing the San Francisco 49ers, and you're playing the Seattle Seahawks twice. That like your in division games are probably the worst three in the NFL right now in with that schedule. Number two, in sort of the same breath, is the Miami Dolphins. So again, Bills twice, Patriots twice, the Jets twice. And honestly, I'm a little sneaky on the Jets right now. They've done some things you can at least be okay with and be positive about. So I don't think they're going to be an immediate bottom of the league this year. I think it will be sort of a battle between I'll say the Dolphins and the Cardinals. Ultimately, I think the Cardinals do end up being the worst in the league this year. But then the third worst schedule this year is Carolina, which I think it's just more based on divisions they're playing this year more than anything else. But you can't sort of be upset and feel bad for them. Um, it's just the way it happens every few years. Same again. I hate going back to the Bills, but it's the schedule. I know Bills are playing the AFC South and the NFC West this year, so that's really what is making the Bills schedule hard. They just seem to be cramming it all in the front half of the season, which is unfortunate, but it's either going to make or break them. So the only other thing I wanted to highlight here before I get you out of here is Yahoo's announcement with college football fantasy. I love fantasy football. I am not too ashamed to say that at all because I spend too much time doing drafts, doing fantasy football, weekly pick'em. I love any of that. It's a lot of fun. And it was about, when did they make this announcement? July 9th at 9 a.m. College fantasy football is now on Yahoo, and I am very excited for that. I'm already a Yahoo fan. Don't get me wrong, I have all of them: Yahoo, ESPN, NFL. I use all of them. Underdog for drafting and for fantasy football, but Yahoo is always the one I kind of keep around, if that makes sense, throughout the full year. I mean, I have them all, and it just becomes, are they on my home screen or are they buried in a pile of other apps in the back of my phone? But like Yahoo, even for me, I do baseball fantasy as well, and that's who I go to for it. So I'm very excited about fantasy college football, and I'm sending out an invite. I would like to be able to put together a league or a couple. And I don't even want to say for money, because I don't think we need money. I don't think money needs to motivate us in a time of college football fantasy coming back. I think I'm just more excited for it, and so I want to open it up. I want to open it up to everyone else who wants to join me in doing college fantasy football. You can find me here on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Wishbone FB. You can also find me on Instagram at Wishbone Chad, and reach out. I'm open. Ask me questions. Give me feedback. I want to hear it. I really do. It's the only way I'm going to get better. And I really hope that my first sort of video stream here in the corner of my basement turns out to be where I want to spend some time talking about football with you, and hopefully talking about football with other people as well as we continue down this road of my envision of what Wishbone Football could and should be down the road as we roll into the college football season. I also love that July 29th and camp is opening, and we're excited. There's football to watch. We got Malik Neighbor highlights, and everyone's freaking out over dynasty and drafting and where should I take them, or should I take them at all? So I think that's where I'm going to wrap things up here. I really want to thank everyone for giving me a watch, giving me a listen, because you're going to find me on YouTube. You're going to find me on Apple Podcasts. You're also going to find me on Spotify. You can find me wherever you are listening to podcasts or watching them on YouTube. Like I said before, I have a Twitter and Instagram account. Twitter is at WishboneFB and Instagram is at WishboneChad, where I'm going to be posting videos of my podcasts, both video and in audio only form. So that does it. That wraps it up. I really want to thank everyone, and thank you for giving Wishbone Football a listen, and you have a great day.